Hi. Hello. Ace Combat 8 might happen this year, or it might not, but I wanted to put out a wish list for the game based on what we've seen so far, and the things I thought were lacking in Ace Combat 7. Basically, I'm going to put each wish into like 3 tiers. The first one are things I basically need Ace Combat 8 to have, otherwise they would seriously detract from the experience, or lack the improvement that I would expect compared to Ace Combat 7. The second one are things that would be nice for it to have. If they aren't here, I'll be a bit disappointed I guess, but I don't think it would hurt my opinion of the game in any real major way. And the final one is more personal preference stuff for the direction or art style of the game, which if, they aren't there, I'll be sad for a moment, but boo-hoo, cry me a river. Of course, there is a chance that some necessary changes in my perspective won't be the same for developers or for you, but for me personally, these are big things I look for. The cool thing Project Aces could do is have none of them in the game, which would be funny, I think. Please, Project Aces. Alright, starting off with the things it needs to have tier. The first one here is going to be useful and interesting wingman or a useful allied command. Either or, I'd prefer both. Basically, Project Aces, give me useful wingmen. And my life is yours! Seriously, please. We obviously see that Ace Combat 8 is going to be inspired by Top Gun. The movie had good chemistry between the pilots, and we need some of that if this whole group of refugees and miscreants on a rundown carrier story is actually going to end up working. If the cutscenes are immersive and all the characters are annoying like Count, I think I might go insane. I think they learned their lesson from Ace Combat 7 that switching the player's squadron every 7 missions is not the move. I'm personally hoping for a combo of something like Ace Combat 5 and 6. The former I think personally had the best wingman in terms of interesting personalities, while the latter had the fucking beast of a Shamrock and Allied Attack. I hope Allied Command actually feels like it has an effect on my wingman as well. Regardless, if you're gonna make this camaraderie a focus for Ace Combat 8, I need to feel like I'm not single-handedly carrying this war while backpacking 300 unemployed bums. I get it's a power fantasy. It doesn't literally need to feel like I'm the only person on this planet. I'm getting old, my back can't take that anymore. Number 2 is going to be better replayability. This one's a very broad and ambiguous one. Ace Combat 7 was okay in terms of replayability. You had the medals, score ranks, some high ceiling missions, aces, that sort of thing, but it still felt somewhat lacking for a modern game. I accomplished basically all that needs to be done in the campaign within 100 to 150 hours, which I guess is kind of normal, but I don't know, I feel like I need more. And before anyone says anything, no, I'm not playing multiplayer. I would rather poke my eyes out with a rusty nail. There are a lot of different ways it can accomplish this replayability. For this example, I'm going to use Ace Combat X. It's a game in particular that had very good replayability. You need to have at least 3 different runs to play each mission and the variants. You had kill rate for planes to unlock skins, an interesting part system to dynamically change certain aircraft and how they played, that sort of thing, etc. In particular, the branching mission structure allowed sub-variants of variant missions. For example, if you didn't retake Port Patterson after letting it be taken, you had half the amount of time to complete each mission for that segment of the game because Port Patterson was your fuel source. I'm not saying it has to be exactly like X, but there has to be some good ideas here, even if branching path is a bit of a major implementation. I'd say another easier implementation is through difficulty. I hope Aces is actually a challenge, or at least even add an Aces of Aces difficulty like in Ace Combat 6 that has a notable gameplay changes to make some missions harder. The return of operations from 6 is a pretty good idea as well. If you're gonna go down that route, we're gonna go more into that on the 3rd tier. I don't know, I just need more reasons to play the game, and as games get more expensive, I'd hope that the number of hours I can sink increases as well, but we all know how hopefully naive that is. Alright, number 3 is going to be a functional campaign co-op or Infinity-like multiplayer. Preferably, again, I hope we have both. This one seems a bit weird to put in that need to have category, but the sheer amount of content and enjoyment that you could potentially get from a well-implemented co-op campaign or multiplayer is kind of hard to put into words. I think campaign co-op is also a great reason to get more friends or co-op audiences that are into that sort of thing and get them into the series, and as you know, the more the merrier. As for multiplayer, I think something like Infinity is the best possible avenue for them to go down. As I insinuated before, I just didn't feel like Ace Combat 7 multiplayer was really fun at all, and the novelty kind of wore out fast. I think the last time I played multiplayer was literally the day after launch, and I was like, I don't like this at all. At a bare minimum, I think these would elevate Ace Combat 8 into one of the greats, maybe even rivaling Holy Trilogy level if they're implemented correctly. I actually have a video that I'll put out at some point going into why I think multiplayer might be the decision that will change the series forever, so maybe look forward to that if you want. Anyways, for the most part, it seems like Project Aces is actually going down this avenue with the leaks and tags seen on the Steam page, so I'm pretty hopeful that it can turn out well. Okay, number 4 is gonna be a story that actually makes sense. Yeah, so Ace Combat 7's story was an absolute cluster, let's be honest. It was stuck between this weird place of being somewhat anti-war and also saying that drones being effective at minimizing casualties was bad. Like, the moral of the story was that killing is bad, but drones killing is worse, so only people should kill people? I'm not really sure what the whole point was. The whole space elevator thing too just made no sense. Like, why would Osea build that there of all places? Like, how did Harlan convince the millions of Osean taxpayers that they're gonna spend trillions of dollars on a space elevator for another continent? It honestly destroyed Harlan's character, in my opinion. I know he was like the big, globalist peace guy. It's just like, how could you ever, like, logistics of that. I'm not even gonna think about it. He wasn't an idiot, so I didn't like how the space elevator ended up there. And worst of all, the characters were uninteresting, and Belka was used as a shadowy antagonist again. Like, I hate the Belkans as much as the next guy, but like, damn, like, leave him alone, man. Give him a break. Like, your best characters are JPEG Dog and a literal batshit insane man from the DLC. We gotta do better than Ace Combat 7, basically, is what I'm saying here. From what we've seen of Ace Combat 8, I think they're going down a great direction. This kind of story is proven by the success of Top Gun, and while it's not particularly a deep thought-provoking one, there's a lot of potential in moving this kind of media to gaming versus the theaters. For now, all I hope is for some interesting characters, which it looks like they're doing well, and some novel storytelling. And finally, number 5, a finished game at release. Project Aces. Please listen to me. The gaming industry is a dark place right now. There are too many unfinished AAA games that die in months, or reduced to DLC farms to squeeze out the last drops of cash from desperate people. Do not release Ace Combat 8 in an unfinished state, and if you do, do not fix it with DLCs, man, please. I have good trust in Project Aces to not do this, but I understand it's sometimes not the developer's choice. I just hope Bandai Namco treats them well. They've proved they can make a great game with 7. I'm fine with DLCs like 7's, just don't make it the most enjoyable experiences locked behind a $30 paywall. I was gonna mention the lack of variety in plans on the wishlist, but if we're being realistic, I feel like they're gonna solve it via the DLCs like they did with 7, which I'm not entirely happy about, but I guess I understand, business is business. This is the reality of the industry that we live in right now. But basically make the game playable at launch, please. Okay, starting with the things that would be nice to have tier. The first one, an interesting and unique super weapon. I'm kind of tired of aerial battleships. Basically, can we do something different? I feel like with Sotoa, we have some good opportunities for new and interesting super weapons, given the fact that it's a seemingly resource depleted authoritarian regime that can spend all of its GDP on military R&D. I mean, just look at what Laysath accomplished with those same feats. Ignore what happened to Navarro, though. We can glaze over that. I'd be fine with the naval super weapon like the Primpaxi, Sinfaxi, and the Alicorn, given the hints to a more naval-focused game, although I hope it's something different than a submarine, personally. I think we've had too many of those. I'd personally like to see something like Excalibur or Stonehenge that could be used in naval combat, for instance. I mean, I don't know how you're going to implement that. I'm not the most creative person, but they pay people for that. To think. I definitely don't do any thinking, and it's definitely not going to be for free. Either way, if it's new and unique, I'd be fine with it. Okay, number 2 is going to be official modding support. I was thinking about adding this to required, but I still think it's kind of a novel thing for the Ace Combat series. I mean, it really only started in a big way with 7. I think modding support would be great for the longevity of the series and expanding interest to outside audiences, as well as just helping replayability, which is obviously something we mentioned. In reality, I just really want to play as the Gleipnir, which would be cool. One big idea here that kind of goes along with modding support is a custom mission editor. Imagine the potential of enlisting all your fans to make their own missions. When I was a kid and played the Holy Trilogy on my PS2, I got tired of playing the same campaign missions over and over again, and I would actually load up a free flight mission and pretend to do my own. I would genuinely fire missiles at nothing and pretend I was destroying things, and I had fun. I think modding support would actually help Ace Combat reach its true potential, and honestly, it would be the most important thing on this list. But I just don't think it would completely detract from the experience if it wasn't there. As long as the game is good, basically, I'm fine with it. I think modding support would do, I think, by far the greatest good for this series compared to anything else. Okay, number 3 is going to be in-depth aircraft, weapon, and part selection. In Ace Combat 7, I just felt like attackers were mostly useless. Every fighter multi-role has a solid air-to-ground SP weapon, and sacrificing mobility for what is often a minuscule increase in the number of SP weapons you get really doesn't seem worth it at all. This is also partly due to the fact that in the mission design for Ace Combat 7, there are rarely pure air-to-ground missions that didn't result in some extensive air-to-air mission update or some form of drone target. In Ace Combat 8, I just hope there are some incentives to go for the tool that's right for the job. And some of you might think that's restrictive on player freedom, and I would agree normally, so another idea I had was the return of the part system, but one that's more similar to Ace Combat X rather than 7's. In Ace Combat X, most parts had a drawback in addition to the upgrade, and some even massively changed the flying style of some planes. The only unfortunate thing was that it was limited to a very few select planes on the roster. Joint Assault actually solved this by allowing tuning for all planes, so I think that would be good. Something like the old part system implemented for all aircraft to dynamically change their playstyle, or even make older planes in the unlock tree better to play with, would be a great addition to the game. Obviously, some of you might say that multiple SP weapons that were teased in the trailers would fix this issue, but I think it could also worsen the problem depending on how balanced holding multiple SP weapons are. And I don't think the appropriate response is following Project Wingman's philosophy of just equipping 30 billion of each weapon either, because it reduces the depth of gameplay from resource management. I am a firm believer that some sort of balance is important even in an all PvE power fantasy game. Maybe that's just controversial. All that to say, I just hope they make incentives to play with all aircrafts and special weapons, and that'll be good for me. The fourth and last part of this tier is quality world building and a tie-in to Electrosphere. They've already teased their work on building up more of the peripheral and unmentioned countries in Strangereal, so I'm not too worried on this front. I just hope it's of good quality. In addition, given how close the timeline of the game is to Electrosphere and the fact that general resource already exists in the trailers, I hope they can bring some clarity on the canon of AC3 and kind of tie into the story a little better. Who knows, maybe they mention Newcom, or perhaps there's a glimpse into some of the corporate relations that'll bring about the foundation for Electrosphere. I think some good world building would be great in diversifying the series, and I think this kind of thing is a great direction for the series to go towards and kind of bridge out to. The last and final tier are things that I would personally prefer to see in Ace Combat 8. And again, these are just personal preference, so I'm not going to be like mortified if they're not in there. I'll just be nice. The first one here is going to be a darker atmosphere and or themes. When I first played through Ace Combat 7, I wasn't particularly wowed by anything until I reached mission 16 and 17 in the campaign. It's around here that the whole satellite's getting blown up was happening, and the chaos that you see in those missions was really cool to me. In particular, I was surprised that Project Aces included the war crimes in mission 17. But honestly, I think if Ace Combat is going to have the narratives that are anti-war, these kind of additions are necessary. I hope that Ace Combat 8 has more mature dialogue and conversation about these topics because they're the reality of war as we've seen in the recent world events. I think it's even more necessary because they're building up SOTOA to be this military dictatorship, so I don't think they would particularly care about committing war crimes. Yes, this does mean I advocate for war crimes to happen in Strangereal. As we know, suffering builds character or something like that. Speaking of dark times, I mean, dare I say, we haven't had a beloved character die in some time. Now, I'm not saying Wingman should die, but every time it happened, the mission got an S tier for me. So, take that how you will. Number 2 here is branching paths or decisions. I know I kind of touched on this in the previous ones, but this is a more specific one, and I included it here because I obviously don't think the game would be bad if they're not here. So it was mentioned in an interview that there's some decisions that the player has to make, but I doubt this is what I'm kind of thinking of. I feel like these focus more on minute-to-minute gameplay decisions that depict the outcome of a mission, rather than ones that change the course of the story. The decisions in Ace Combat 3, X, and 5, for instance, are more of what I had in mind. These were large commitments to make, obviously, they're big parts of these games, but I think the activity of the war in Ace Combat X, for example, made it one of the coolest Ace Combats to date, going back to that whole sub-variant of a level thing. I know I'm doing a lot of glazing for Ace Combat X, but I personally believe it's one of the most ambitious and well-executed games in the series, and there's a lot to learn about how it structures its missions. This, of course, goes hand in hand with the need for replayability, as mentioned before. Number 3, romance. I mean, you just can't add a hot girl in the Ace Combat game and not expect me to want to have romance. It's time for the next evolution of Ace Combat and for it to realize its true destiny as a dating sim with occasional fighter jet side missions. It's time. You hear my cries, Project Aces. Number 4 is the return of Ace Combat 6 style gameplay. The scale of Ace Combat 6's battles made it one of the best Ace Combats in terms of gameplay, arguably the best. There's no better feeling than flying through an active battlefield with tens of thousands of particles and bullets flying everywhere, and then absolutely wreaking havoc on everything in a 100-mile radius of you. The return of operations would complement this style greatly as well. Well, Ace Combat 6 did get a bit monotonous with the amount of ground attack missions. I think implementing a handful of missions that are just large-scale attacks would help legitimize the military strategy behind Ace Combat missions, as well as make them more immersive as a whole. This is, in my opinion, opinion, what made Ace Combat 4 a great game. It felt like every mission had a purpose that led to the next. It actually felt like you were a part of the war effort. While Ace Combat's strong suit was never realism, having some form of it legitimizes the war and makes it a lot more immersive. And Ace Combat is nothing if not an immersive power fantasy. So that's why I think this kind of gameplay would work well. Last, but honestly least, better aircraft customization. Ace Combat 7 was a step in the right direction, but the emblems are kind of a bit static and awkward at times. This is a small one, but I think it would be a great implementation to have better customization. Some ideas include a custom emblem editor, or even a skin editor if they're really feeling ambitious. Of course, these would slow down DLC sales, so not likely, but a man can dream. More options to customize your aircraft makes the game better for player expression, and that's always a good thing, I think. Okay, it's a pretty quick video, I guess. I'm not really sure. This is actually just me reading the script beforehand, so I don't know if it's going to be long or not or whatever. That's the end of my wish list. Of course, there's other things I want, but I think these are the most important that came to my mind. I hope you enjoyed the video, and sorry for not uploading for about 3 months. I was doing side quests or something. Hoping to upload a bit more regular in the future, but I can't really promise anything, as shown. Like and subscribe so I know you liked it. It helps motivate me to make more videos, so that's always nice. Until next time.